Regarde, it is another original de Netflix completely in French comme la trêve. Hopefully this one is not shit. I was going to do the whole review in that beret, but that thing is made of wool and I live in Australia, so no. Hi there guys, I hope you're doing très bien. Today's review is what I think is quite a unique series in many ways. It is a Netflix original called A Very Secret Service, although in the French it's called Au Service de la France, which means in service to France. It can only be watched in French with English subtitles. There are no dubbing options. I'll get back to that later and why I think that's a good idea. The reason I think it's unique is that in the English-speaking world, we tend to think of France as a very proud country, very patriotic. They take themselves very seriously, they're very proud of their language, etc. And all that's true, but this series is French and laughs at itself. It laughs at that French attitude. So it plays out in the French Secret Service in 1960, which is a time that France was very proud of who they were. They considered themselves the winners of World War II, they ruled over most of Africa, and they were a major player in the whole kind of Cold War, war on communism thing that was starting up. But the show looks at all that and laughs at it. But what's really skillful here is that the show doesn't just laugh out loud at itself from start to finish. This isn't like Get Smart or Johnny English. It's not just a straight up spoof thing. It treats itself enough like a serious espionage series that when there are jokes, they still feel quite surprising and fresh. It's kind of difficult to say how they did that, but it's definitely helped by the cinematography. If you turn the sound down on this, you wouldn't realize that it was actually a parody. If you compare it to, say, Get Smart, you turn the sound down on that show, you know that it's taking the piss. You can tell by the shots. Whereas this show, the music, the cinematography, everything looks like a straight-barreled spy thriller. It kind of reminds me of Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, which was George Clooney's first film as a director. If you haven't seen that, you should definitely do that. It's shot and scored and everything so beautifully that that alone feels worth some revere, but then it's funny too. That's the same with A Very Secret Service. I would say though that the humour isn't for everyone. Some people are probably going to sit there watching it thinking, is it meant to be funny? And if that's you, then you can just skip this one. Especially the first 2 episodes are probably the funniest ones while you're getting to know the characters and getting to know how the show works. But it's so straight-barreled that you may actually miss that it's meant to be funny. I mean, not because you've watched this review now, but if it's the sort of thing that you're just not seeing the humour in, you can just go ahead and skip it. I said I'd get back to the fact that it's in French and cannot be watched in English. The first thing is that I would highly, highly recommend this series to anyone learning French, and there's a few reasons for that. The main one is that being set in the 60s, it has a very formal feel to it, but not like stupidly so. So the language is quite clear and can be understood even with fairly basic French. There's a lot of vous instead of tu, and generally vous is the easier form, the one you learn first, so that's one thing. Another thing is that the English subtitles are excellent. They've gone to a lot of effort even translating puns and things that wouldn't necessarily come out linguistically, so they've done quite a good job of that, and that way you can realize that there's something that you should be hearing linguistically and you can go back and go, ah, right, I get it. I will also say that this series is a bit funnier if you speak a bit of French. I don't speak French fluently or anything, I'm not trying to claim that, but I speak enough that I both listen to it and read the subtitles. I don't rely fully on the subtitles. And certain lines just sound funnier in French, like they've just got a weird ring to them or a funny ring to them that you can appreciate if you just speak a little bit of French. The other thing is there are characters who speak bad French, and that's quite an amusing aspect of it as well. Not just their horrible accents, which they are horrible accents, but also like they get corrected by the French speakers in ways that most English speakers are going to understand. You'll be like, yeah, I've made that mistake. So if you don't speak any French, don't skip the series. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying learn to speak French. My criticisms are not many, to be honest. There are 2 small things. The first is that the series starts with one of the funniest scenes of the whole series. So, I mean, that's pretty standard for a comedy series, but it does sort of start up here and then just drop off a little bit. The second is that for the first 6 or 7 episodes or so, there's no clear direction to the story. There is a story, but it doesn't have a single thread that follows through. When they do give us a story in about the 7th episode, it does seem to make it a little bit harder for them to keep it funny, because now we've got something at stake. I wonder if, and I'm not saying this for sure, but I just wonder if they'd introduced that same premise very, very early on in the script, if we could have maybe relaxed a bit more through the whole series, because it'd be like, okay, that's our goal, but we know that we're actually going to spend most of the time joking. I'm trying to think of other series that are this funny, but also have a clear direction from start to finish. I can't think of any series. I can think of movies, so something like Burn After Reading, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, The Informant. If you like those movies, then you'll probably be into this. So guys, Au Service de la France is a very, very clever series, and one that I haven't really seen anything like before. I don't think everyone's going to be completely into the humour, but I think most people would be. Also, it's absolutely parfait if you're learning French. There's a number of reasons that I think that's the case, but I think it's probably the best series on Netflix if you're learning French. I'll also be reviewing Season 2 soon, so look out for that if it's not already up. Guys, if you're new here, what I do is review foreign language films and series, and occasionally I talk about language learning itself. So if you're interested in either of those things, then click anywhere on the screen that stuff is appearing. Otherwise, wherever you are, whatever language you call your own, I hope you really, really enjoyed this, found it helpful. I'll see you next time.